Three major car brands that will be gone. Total panic starts now. Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that the trucks and engines your family relied on for generations were gone. Not phased out slowly. Not replaced on your terms. Just wiped off the board overnight by a single stroke of a pen in Washington. That's exactly what just happened to three of America's most iconic automotive giants. Ford, Ram, Chevrolet. Their most legendary engines, the heartbeats of their most beloved trucks, silenced not by consumer choice, but by a law so sweeping that it reshaped the very DNA of the U.S. auto industry. And the ripple effects? Total panic. Dealerships scrambling. Used truck prices skyrocketing. Mechanics hoarding parts. Families clinging to vehicles that suddenly felt less like machines and more like endangered heirlooms. The question is simple. If laws can kill Ford's V8, Ram's Hemi, and Chevy's small block in one brutal sweep, what legend falls next? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll not only understand what's happening, but you'll realize how directly it could impact your life. And before we dive in, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of this unfolding story. Ford, the fall of the F-150 V8. For decades, one name echoed across farms, job sites, highways, and neighborhoods louder than almost any other: Ford. More specifically, the Ford F-150. It wasn't just the best-selling truck in America. It was a cultural monument, a badge of honor. And at the center of its mythos for generations was the simple, rugged V8 engine. This wasn't a fancy, over-engineered contraption. No delicate electronics, no turbochargers waiting to fail. Just a solid block of American steel built for torque, designed to outlast the paint, the seats, and sometimes even the owners themselves. These trucks weren't just workhorses. They were companions. Tools passed down from father to son, carrying not only lumber and livestock feed, but also family history. Picture this: a grandfather's dented, scarred F-150, bought new in the 70s, rebuilt in the 80s, still running strong in the 90s. A father uses it to haul his hunting gear. A son takes his driver's test in it. That wasn't just transportation. That was generational storytelling on wheels. But in 2024, everything changed. Washington rewrote fleet-wide fuel efficiency laws, stripping away the loopholes that once allowed light-duty trucks breathing room. The formulas that kept those V8s alive were gone. Suddenly, every F-150 sold with a V8 wasn't just a truck, it was a financial bomb detonating Ford's entire fleet average. The penalties per vehicle? Thousands of dollars. Multiply that across hundreds of thousands of trucks, and you're talking billions in losses. The boardroom decision came quickly and mercilessly. The base V8 was finished. And just like that, the cultural heartbeat of America's best-selling truck flatlined. The fallout was immediate. Across job sites, contractors who had sworn by the simplicity of their XL trims looked at the new turbocharged V6s with suspicion. Sure, the numbers looked fine on paper. But could they really outlast a V8 rebuilt on a Saturday afternoon in a home garage? Fathers who once taught their kids how to change spark plugs and diagnose misfires by ear now stared at plastic engine covers and laptop diagnostic ports. The lessons of independence, resilience, and mechanical know-how, gone. And the used market? A frenzy. Clean, low-mileage F-150 V8s shot up in price almost overnight. Men showed up at dealerships with envelopes of cash, desperate to grab what might be the last truly simple Ford truck they'd ever own. Online forums buzzed with strategies for stockpiling parts. Small-town mechanics prepared themselves for a surge of loyalists determined to keep their trucks alive for decades. But this wasn't just about Ford. The law that struck them down didn't stop there. The next victim carried a name as legendary as thunder itself. Ram. The end of the HEMA. If Ford's V8 was a symbol of strength, then Ram's Hemi was a battle cry. For generations, those three letters, H-E-M-I, weren't just an engine designation. They were an identity. Born in the mid-20th century and reborn in the early 2000s, the 5.7-liter Hemi became synonymous with unapologetic muscle. Ram's ad screamed, "That thing got a Hemi?" And the proud answer, shouted from job sites and stoplights alike, was always, yes. The Hemi wasn't just under the hood. It was on hats, shirts, stickers, and tattoos. It was a handshake between strangers, a nod of respect between truck owners who shared the same roaring thunder beneath their feet. But then came the law. The same regulations that silenced Ford's V8 landed like a hammer on Ram's doorstep. Fleet fuel averages no longer allowed any room for engines like the Hemi. Every single sale dragged Ram deeper into penalty territory. Each one $1,000 liability? And no corporation, no matter how proud, could survive that financial bleeding. So the verdict came: retire the Hemi, replace it with the new Hurricane Inline 6 turbocharged platform. On paper, the Hurricane looked great. More power, better efficiency, compliance with federal standards. But on paper doesn't stir the soul. Because a Hemi wasn't about numbers. It was about identity. It was about pulling a trailer and feeling the thunder in your chest. It was about lining up at a red light, glancing at the guy next to you, and knowing that when your light turned green, the sound alone would declare victory. The reaction was heartbreaking. Forms filled with grief. Auctions for low-mileage Hemis exploded in price. Mechanics and enthusiasts started hoarding cylinder heads, pistons, and spare parts, vowing to keep the engines alive long after Ram stopped supporting them. Across diners in Oklahoma and union halls in Pennsylvania, conversations turned bitter. Why should lawmakers in D.C., people who had probably never hauled a cattle trailer or pulled a stump from frozen ground, decide what kind of engines working men could buy? To them, it felt less like progress and more like punishment. And the irony? Demand for the Hemi had never been stronger. It wasn't market forces that killed it. It was legislation. A brotherhood severed, a culture dismantled. But the devastation didn't stop with Ford or Ram. Because looming in the background was the engine that had defined not just a truck, but an entire American century. Chevrolet, death of the small block. If Ford's V8 was family and Ram's Hemi was pride, Chevrolet's small block V8 was religion. Since 1955, the Chevy small block has been the backbone of America's roads, farms, drag strips, and job sites. The sound of a small block wasn't just mechanical noise. It was an anthem, as familiar to the American ear as the crack of a bat or the whistle of a train. The Silverado carried that torch proudly. With its 5.3 and 6.2-liter small blocks, the Silverado 1500 wasn't just a truck. It was a rite of passage. Teenagers bought their first Silverados with hard-earned money, fathers trusted them to haul campers across state lines, and contractors filled their beds with lumber and tools. The bond was unshakable. But in 2024, the law came for Chevy too. The new calculations were brutal. Every Silverado small block dragged the fleet average into penalty territory. Each sale came with crushing fines. And when you multiplied those fines by the hundreds of thousands of trucks Chevrolet sold every year, the math was impossible. The announcement came quietly, almost sheepishly. The small block was being phased out. Turbocharged inline 4s, inline 6s, hybrids, and electrics would take its place. The reaction? A cultural earthquake. Dealers couldn't keep small block Silverados on the lot. Buyers stormed showrooms, desperate to grab the last of the line. Auction prices skyrocketed. Parts suppliers and mechanics stockpiled everything they could. Enthusiast clubs turned into preservation societies. Fathers told their sons, "Take care of this one. You'll never be able to buy another like it." Because the small block wasn't just an engine. It was continuity. It was heritage. It was proof that some things, some truly American things, could last forever. Until now. For many, it felt like tearing down a flag. Like outlawing baseball. Like declaring that the soul of America no longer fit on a spreadsheet. Chevrolet tried to spin it. Commercials boasted about efficiency. Executives pointed to torque curves and acceleration times. But no spec sheet could replace the deep, confident rumble of a small block V8. No marketing campaign could rebuild the trust that was broken when lawmakers, not buyers, dictated the end of an American icon. The bigger picture, Ford? Ram. Chevrolet. 3 titans. 3 legends. 3 engines a race not by choice but by regulation. And the consequences run deeper than horsepower numbers. This isn't just about trucks. It's about culture. About fathers teaching sons. About towns built around the sound of engines echoing across fields. About independence. The belief that if something broke, you could fix it yourself with your own hands, not a laptop and a dealer appointment. That continuity is gone. Mechanics who built entire livelihoods around V8 repairs now face uncertain futures. Independent shops that thrived on tuning, customizing, and rebuilding small blocks and Hemis watch their markets shrinking. Communities that gathered at car meets, drag strips, and job sites feel a piece of their cultural center ripped away. And yet the used market tells the story. Trucks with V8s are skyrocketing in value. Loyalists are stockpiling parts. Enthusiasts are forming underground networks to keep the engines alive. Memory refuses to die, even when legislation demands it. The future of trucks. So where do we go from here? Automakers are pushing hard into inline sixes, hybrids, and electrics. The Hurricane engine at Ram. EcoBoosts at Ford. New turbocharged designs at Chevrolet. And on paper, these engines might outperform the old guard. More torque. Better mileage. Cleaner emissions. But the soul? That's another question. Because what lawmakers and corporate executives can't seem to quantify is emotion. Heritage. Pride. The goosebumps you get when a V8 roars to life. The father-son bond of rebuilding an engine on a Saturday afternoon. The pride of saying, yeah, it's got a Hemi, or that's a small block. Those things don't fit on spreadsheets. And maybe that's the point. These laws weren't designed with emotion in mind. They were designed with compliance in mind. But for the men and women who actually drive, haul, tow, and build with these trucks, that loss feels personal. Conclusion. So here we are. Ford's base V8, gone. Ram's Hemi, gone. Chevy's small block, gone. 3 legends silenced by one sweeping law. What's left is memory. And memory, unlike engines, cannot be outlawed. But make no mistake, this is just the beginning. More changes are coming. More legends are on the chopping block. And if Washington can wipe out Ford, Ram, and Chevy in one brutal sweep, then no brand, no engine, no tradition is safe. So let me ask you, did lawmakers go too far? Or was this the price of progress? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your story if you've owned one of these legends. I read every single one. And before you go, hit that like button and subscribe, because the fight for America's trucks is only just beginning. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss what comes next.